This video is your chance to learn Python for free from a senior software engineer at Microsoft. Welcome to Newton School's 19 Days of Python Challenge. Whether you are a beginner or someone looking to level up, this series is perfect for everyone, taking you from the basics to job-ready skills step by step. Check the PDF in the description for the complete roadmap of what you'll be learning in this series. Subscribe now, start the playlist, and kick off your Python journey today.
Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. Rohit this side, and the topic for today's video is input-output operations in Python. So before starting the topic, I want to give some context again regarding the programming. So whenever you write a particular piece of code, what do we expect from it? We want to give it some input, and in return we want some output. For example, let's say we have a calculator, and in the code we want to give a number a and b, and in return we want a plus b, that will be some number c, right? So whenever we write code for this type of problem, what do? A is equal to 4, b is equal to 3, and then we do a plus b and we print it. It will print 7, right? But whenever you use calculator, does the input always remain same? Do you always give 4 and 3? No, right? You can give any number anytime. Maybe you can give 100 plus 17. You can give 20 plus 50, right? So these inputs should be taken from the user into the code. Yes or no? These input should be taken from the user, and then the output should come. For example, if A is given 20 and B is given 50, C should come 70. If A is given 5 and B is given 3, answer should come 8. So that's where the input-output operation comes into the picture. So let's start it. So think of input like receiving orders. You are receiving the orders. So think of input like receiving orders. You are receiving the order from your client. Let's say you are into the kitchen. You are taking the order from a person who has came to a restaurant, that okay, I want this, I want that. Similarly, in the code, you are receiving the order as a user input. So yeah, this is again a quote from David Beasley, who is a Python expert, that inputting the data in Python is like conversation with your computer. You are giving your own input, right? For example, when you use calculator, you are actually doing the conversation with the calculator. You are giving input, it is giving output. You are giving a different input, it is giving output, right? It's similar to like nowadays you are using chat GPT. You are giving some input, you are getting output, right? So you speak to it, and it listens, but sometimes it just said, I don't understand. For example, let's say the calculator is asking you two numbers, but let's say you give some strings. The calculator code will error out, right? Makes sense, right? So the user provides the input just like a customer telling you what they want to order. Like the customer is telling you what they want to order, right? So let's see, let's explain it in a simple words. So let's say that the chef starts making a recipe, right? Now the chef says, I need a plan, right? So chef will take a pan, right? Now the chef needs the ingredients, right? Now the chef needs the spices, right? Now the chef is done, right? And the dish is done, and the input works in the same way, right? You keep on giving input and the program will give output, right? So here the chef is nothing like your code, right? You are giving input and then it is working for you, right? So to take the input into the Python code, there is a function called input function. There is a function called input function. So the input function is used to take the user input from the keyboard. So you have to use this function called input, right? So whatever input you will give, it will take it. For example, if I give 3 as a user input, it will take it like, please provide a number to print, right? And then the S1, The S1 will be whatever input you will give here. Whatever input you will give here will come as output. See, please provide an input to print. It printed 3. If I give input as 15, it will print 15. Right? So actually this also depends upon different types of compiler. In this Python playground, you have to give the input initially, right, before running the code. But in most of the compilers, what happens is that you run the code and then it will wait at the terminal. You can give your input on the fly, right? For example, without giving the input, you can run the code. You can try it in your any other compiler. Without giving the input, you can run the code, and then once you run it, it will wait for your input. So you can give the input on the fly. Right? So whatever input you will give here, it will be taken as a user input into the code, right? So for example, here we have the input, enter your name, and then let's say you give the name. After enter your name, the terminal will wait. You give the name Alice, and then you are printing hello Alice, right? Cool. So by default, input returns a string. The input function returns a string. It always takes input as a string. To make the numbers as input, you need to convert them into int or float. For example, if someone gives the input to be a number, right, and then you want to convert it to a int, right? Let's say I don't want to print anything. You want to convert it to int. For example, I give 20. Now the S1 will become integer. Right? Output is 20. But what if I give input as a Rohit? It will give error, because whatever input you are giving, it will not be able to convert it into int. See, invalid literal for int. So input is taken fine. There is no problem in taking the input as Rohit. But the thing is, it is not able to convert to int. Similarly, if you take float, if I give, let's say, 5, it will convert that to float as a decimal value. See, 5.0, right? So if you want to convert your string input into integer and float, you have to convert them using the int and float function. So that's why we are using int outside. See, float outside. So if you give enter your age 20, it will take it as int. Now age will be a number. 20 plus 1, 21, because we are printing age plus 1. Similarly, if you enter the price 45, it will take it as 45.0. And then you are multiplying it with 1.18. So yeah, again, there is another funny quote from Tom Chris, who is the creator of Django REST framework, which is a Python framework, right? So what will you call when the Python asks for input, but then it just stares at you because it is waiting for your input, right? I just explained, right, that in most of the terminals, what actually happens is whenever you ask for the input in the code, you run the code, it will wait for your input. So it's something like it just stares at you. So how does it feel like? It's like the command line where it is waiting for your input. It is in relationship with you, where lots of questions are getting asked, but no real answers. You are not answering to them. So basically the Python is waiting for your answer, right? So let's say I want to take multiple inputs, right? So you can use split. You can use the split function to take the multiple inputs. For example, I take input and I want 2 numbers. So how can you get 2 numbers in one go, a comma b, using the split function? So it will take a and b as these 2 numbers, 10 and 20. So this is how you can use the split to take the multiple inputs, right? So here we are taking 2 inputs in one go, right? Now what if I want to take the input as a list? I want to take it as a list, right? So I want to take a lot of data at the same time, right? So what I can do is So in the previous example, if you want to use this input, because earlier we were taking this input as a string, because by default input returns string, right? And we were splitting it, right? So when we were giving 1, 5 and 7, the output was 1, 5, 7. But if you want to treat all of them as integers, you have to map them to integers. If the input is a single number, you can simply do int and then you can convert it to int, right, using the int function. But here we have multiple numbers, right? So input dot split, it will give you multiple strings. So we are mapping it to integers. We are mapping it to integers. So now A, B and C will act like integers. So that's why the output will be 1 plus 5 plus 7, 13. Right? So this is how the map function works. So now I hope you get to know what is map. Now if you want to take it as a list, so what you only thing you need to do is you can just use the list function, that's it. And let's say the name of the list is A, it's a single variable, right? Now if you want to print A, it will be just a list of numbers. See, 1, 5 and 7, right? What if I don't use the map function here? What if I don't use the map function here? What will happen? So it will treat them as strings, right? For example, here if I give something different, but the space is there in between to split, right? So what will happen? See, now these all are different strings, right? So map is just to map the multiple inputs to integer. We were using it for that. And the list is used to take the whole input as a list. So I hope you get to know what is the importance of this list function, right? So the next one is default value. So if the user presses enter without typing anything, right? So what will happen is you will not give any input. Input function will try to check the user input, but there will be no input. So it will give an error, right? But if you want to give some default value, you can give it like this, or guessed, right? Here we are saying input this or guessed. So if the user will not give any input and press enter, it will take the default value whatever you are giving after or. So it will print hello, name will be guessed because you have already given the default value. Right? Now the character input. What if you want to take the input as a character? So the input function takes it as a string always. So if you want to take it as character, you can take the first 0th index, right? So for example, you want to take input of 0. So A will now be character because you are taking the 0th index of that string. So let's say you pass input as Newton. It will print A will be N. A will be N because you are taking the 0th index. Right? You can select any index whatever you want from that, but when you are expecting a character from the user input, you know that user will always give a single character, right? And then if you will take the first index, it will throw error because there is no first index, right? There is no first index. So that's why we always used input of 0 for taking input as a character because we are expecting a single character, right? So from a string which has a single character, it can only have a 0th index, right? So this is how the character input works, right? So now let's do the quiz. So I again suggest you all that whenever the question comes in, just take a pause, think about the solution and then move forward, right? So here, first of all, what is it, right? What is the output? Assume the user entered 5. It's in the triple quotes, right? Triple double quotes. So it's a multi-line comment. This is just the information for you about the code. This is not the actual code, right? So we are assuming that the user will enter 5, right? So let's see the code now. Num is equal to input, enter a number, and what is entered? 5. So input 5. So we are printing 5 multiplied by 2 equal to 10. So think about it. So what will be 5 multiplied by 2? Input always returns a string, not an integer. So If you want to take integer, you have to convert it to int, right? So 5 multiplied by 2 will be 55. Whenever you multiply string with a number, it will repeat, right? So 5 5 is 5 5 double equal to 10? No, false, right? This was interesting, right? So the next one is age. We are taking input, enter your age, and then we are multiplying it by 2. What will it print? Again, same question. So let's say the user enters 20. The comment is saying user enter 20. 20 multiplied by 2, 20 20, because it will be a string. Now again, we are taking the input and then we are splitting it. And we are assuming the user entered 5 space 10. So if you split it, input will be 5 and 10, two separate strings, not integers. So we are saying first plus second, 5 plus 10, 510. Because input always returns string. If you want to create it to integer and float, you have to convert it. And if you want to take it as character, you have to take the 0th index of it. Right? So next one is input, enter your favorite color or blue. What is that? Default, right? So assume that the user presses enter without typing anything. So what will happen? Favorite color is, if the user doesn't give any input, let's say user just clicks enter, it will be blue. So favorite color is blue. So D will be the answer. So now again, input, enter a word, you are taking the 0th index. It will, and let's say the user enters hello. So it will be the output will be H. So the string what will get printed is the first character is H. A will be the answer. So what's next, right? So till now you have learned about how to take the input from the user. So input is really very important in any program, right? Because you cannot every time hard code the input. You cannot every time hard code the data into the program, right? You need input from the user. You want to work on it, and that's how the program should work, right? So the next we will be learning about Python conditional statements, which are very important in any programming language. Whenever you are dealing with different kind of situations into a program, for example, let's say you enter into a voting booth, and there you enter your age, and then the software wants to tell you, are you allowed to vote or not, right? So there should be a conditions into the code, right? So if your age should be more than 18, you should be allowed, right? Or if your age is not relevant to that particular voting, you should not be allowed, right? So that's where the conditional statements comes into the picture, right? So in the next steps, we'll be learning about the conditional statements, which are very important to take decisions into a program, right? So now you are going to enter into the next big step, right, in of Python. So the next video will really be very important. So thank you so much for joining today. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you.
You have now covered the basics of Python. In the next few videos, we are going to deep dive into many other topics, so don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button, stay tuned, and drop your doubts in the comments. Our mentors are here to help.